And joining us now is Makram Rabah. He's a lecturer at the American University of Beirut. He joins us live from Beirut in Lebanon to talk to us further about the diplomatic row between Lebanon and the Gulf states. Good afternoon, Makram. Thanks for joining us on NewsHour.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the UAE, the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has asked its citizens to return from Lebanon over the diplomatic row that's now unfolding over the comment made by Information Minister George Kordahi. He criticised Saudi Arabia's role in the Yemen war. Now, what are the latest developments from the Lebanese capital there?
Well, up until now, the ruling establishment has refused to acknowledge that there is a crisis, and they assume that this can be swept under the rug in a way. One also has to point out that even before the rupture of diplomatic relations between these Gulf states and Lebanon, the relationship was very tense, and we can describe it as more passive-aggressive in the sense that they don't want to take any negative reaction against Lebanon, but the Lebanese government, and particularly those who support Hezbollah, have gone out of their way to weaponize the Lebanese state against Saudi Arabia in particular. And what had happened over the weekend isn't really a knee-jerk. It's not based only on the comments of this so-called Minister of Information, but rather it has been confirmed by the current Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia that his government looks at Lebanon as being controlled by Hezbollah, and thus there is no need for diplomatic relations with a hostile country. And this is where the real problem starts, not just by a couple of comments by someone who's too arrogant to admit that he has caused tremendous damage to this relationship. Okay.
Well, Saad Hariri has blamed Hezbollah for the row with Saudi Arabia. Now, to what extent is that true? And is Hezbollah actually exacerbating the tensions here? What's your analysis?
Definitely, Hezbollah has a huge role in this problem, but also the huge role in this problem goes back to Saad Hariri himself, who has agreed in 2016 vote in our current president, who is an ally of Hezbollah. And Saad al-Hariri also has ministers in the current cabinet, so does a lot of people who came to support this Saudi initiative. If they are really against what Hezbollah are doing, I think it's better for them to resign from the cabinet and stop this hypocrisy in a way. Definitely, Hezbollah is occupying Lebanon militarily, but politically, the ruling establishment, including people who claim to be pro-Saudi, have given the political legitimacy to the Hezbollah-controlled government.
Okay. Now, years of war in Yemen have killed hundreds of thousands and millions are without food in the country. But why has there been inaction from an international perspective regarding this crisis? And what has stopped international powers from taking action against the Saudis?
Well, in general, Saudi Arabia has voiced its concern a number of times that this is considered a national security matter, and their involvement in Yemen needs to stop. But more than once, many political initiatives to stop the war have basically been opposed by the Houthis themselves, who are under direct political will of the Iranian regime. The thing is, as a Lebanese, Kordahi could have been more wise to say that he opposes the war in general, and rather not to take sides in this war between the Houthis and Saudi Arabia. At the end of the day, the war in Yemen should end, and a political settlement should be the case. And this is not only in Yemen, but rather in Iraq and in Syria and anywhere where Iran is involved. The problem here is that Iran always plays possum and plays the role that they are under aggression, whereas in fact they are trying to control these governments from the inside, be it Yemen or be it the current Lebanese government.
Okay. Now, just lastly, Makram, earlier you did say that there was a refusal to accept that there was in fact a crisis over the statement made by the minister, the Lebanese minister. But in light of all that, PM Najib Mikati has asked the international community to help solve the crisis and to make room for dialogue with Saudi Arabia over pending issues between the countries. Now, what will it take for the Saudis to notice and accept dialogue with Lebanon?
I don't think that at this stage leveraging France and particularly President Macron or the Biden administration to try to bully the Saudis will work, because Saudi Arabia in its recent statement clearly said that there is an attempt to destabilize Saudi Arabia through the smuggling of drugs which are being manufactured in Syria and being smuggled by Hezbollah into Saudi Arabia. And the Saudi customs has a number of times warned against this, that the rupture of relations will affect the economic and particularly the agricultural exchange between the countries. Najib Mikati at the moment cannot leverage, and I don't think that the Biden administration has enough credit with the Saudis or the rest of the Gulf countries, and particularly one has to notice the position of the Kuwait. Kuwait usually is very moderate, and Kuwait is usually the last to take any action. We see that it was the third country to join Saudi Arabia, which should be clear that Iran is not behaving, and any waging on Iran's rational behavior is a losing bet.
Okay, Makram, thank you so much for joining the program. I appreciate your time and analysis.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.